She's looking at you, and she isn't blinking. Not because she doesn't want to look away, because she can't. An owl's eyes aren't spheres, the way yours are. They're tubes, locked in place by a hard, bony ring inside the skull. No drifting left, no drifting right, not even a millimeter up. To glance in your direction, she'd have to reshape the eye itself. That's not possible. She has no choice in where her eyes look. Since her eyes can't move, everything else has to. And what happens next would be an injury under any other circumstances. An owl can turn her head almost all the way around, 270 degrees in either direction. If you tried that same motion, there'd be one outcome: torn vessels, a stroke, dead on the spot. A sharp head turn tears the delicate inner lining of the arteries. It happens in car crashes, on roller coasters, even at an overzealous chiropractor's hands. Owls have the same vessels, the same fragility, and yet, no stroke, ever. A team at Johns Hopkins solved it. Doctors who spend their careers on human vessel trauma, who'd wondered for decades why owls weren't dropping dead under every tree. They took owls that had died of natural causes, injected dye into their blood vessels, and turned the heads while watching what happened on the scans. In a human, the vessels narrow when the head turns. In an owl, they do the opposite. They widen, as if reservoirs are hiding under the skin at the base of the skull, ready to hold blood in reserve while the other pathways are pinched shut. The numbers explain where that safety margin comes from. An owl has 14 neck vertebrae, exactly twice as many as you. The holes in those vertebrae, where the artery passes through, are roughly 10 times wider than the artery itself. The blood has somewhere to go when everything twists. And one more detail. An owl's skull connects to the spine at a single point, not two, the way yours does. That means the head doesn't bend through a series of small adjustments. It rotates on one pivot point, like spinning on a heel. All of it exists for one simple reason, so those fixed, unmoving eyes can still end up pointed at you, from whichever side you happen to approach. So what happens when there is no light at all? Not a drop, not from the moon, not from the stars. Eyes, no matter how large, eventually just give up. And that is where things get interesting. In the late 1950s, a Harvard student named Roger Payne set out to test one thing. Could a barn owl catch prey without seeing it at all? He cut the lights completely and let a mouse loose on the floor of a dark room. The owl took off and struck dead on. Then he swapped the mouse for a crumpled piece of paper dragged on a thread, to rule out scent and body heat. The owl struck dead on again. In 1971, he published the results. Barn owls locate prey in total darkness using sound alone, with an error of less than 1 degree, both vertically and horizontally. The secret is asymmetry. A barn owl has one ear set higher than the other, so sound reaches them at slightly different times. That fraction of a second tells the owl exactly where a rustle is coming from, above or below, left or right. And an owl's face is not just a face. The disk of feathers around it works like an antenna she can control with muscles, reshaping it and adjusting its focus, as if you were manually aiming a satellite dish. That adds roughly 20 decibels of sensitivity to her hearing. A great gray owl can hear and pinpoint a mouse buried under 45 centimeters of snow, and without seeing it at all, punch through the crust exactly where it is. When scientists plugged one of an owl's ears with cotton, she still lunged toward the prey, but missed by roughly that same 45 centimeters. One muffled channel, and the whole calculation slides off course. And here is a question science still cannot answer with certainty. Everyone knows an owl flies silently, Her wings are built to muffle sound on takeoff and in flight. But why exactly? One theory says it is so the prey will not hear her coming and will not have time to react. Another, far less obvious, says the silence is for the owl herself. If her own wings were loud, they would drown out the very rustle of a mouse under the snow that she is straining to hear. Which would mean she is not going quiet to fool her prey. She is going quiet so she does not deafen herself. Researchers are still comparing feather structure across dozens of owl species, trying to work out which theory holds, or whether both do. An owl swallows her prey whole, or in large chunks. Fur, bones, teeth. None of it she can digest, and within 6 to 10 hours, those remains compress into a dense pellet inside her stomach. Until it comes back out the way it went in, no new prey can enter. The regurgitation is not the end of the story. It is the condition for it. Without it, the next hunt simply cannot begin. All this time, we've been examining the owl as an object, something we look at. But what if every so often she looks back on purpose? Scientists strapped a tiny wireless camera to a barn owl's head, something like an owl-sized GoPro, while simultaneously tracking activity in her visual brain. It turned out the owl doesn't just let her gaze drift across the world however it happens to fall. She lingers on specific objects in her field of view longer, more often, and earlier than on anything else. She chooses where to look, rather than simply reacting to motion. Until then, that kind of behavior had only been found in primates. In the same experiment, researchers played a brief sound from a hidden speaker at different points in the room. The owl's gaze afterward didn't go to the sound itself. It went to whichever visible object sat closest to where the sound came from. She wasn't just hearing, and she wasn't just seeing. She was fusing both signals into a single picture before deciding exactly where to look. It turned out she can also tell you apart from you, with a dog. Urban burrowing owls, long since settled near people, react to a person with a dog as a far more serious threat than a person alone. Not every movement frightens her equally. She has time to register exactly who is in front of her, and how dangerous that is. And that same burrowing owl has one more trick that turns everything on its head. When something threatens her chicks in the burrow, they hiss, almost indistinguishable from a rattlesnake's warning rattle. Scientists tested this on ground squirrels. The ones already familiar with real rattlesnakes flinched from the owl's hiss exactly as they did from a snake's. Squirrels that had never encountered a rattlesnake didn't react to the owl at all. That's not a coincidental resemblance in sound. It's a deception that only works on those who already know what to fear. She isn't just a creature to be observed. She assesses threat, chooses where to look, fuses sound and sight into one picture, and if she needs to, deceives you in another creature's voice. While you're studying her, she may very well be studying you. In English villages, people once believed something strange. If you walked in a circle around an owl perched in a tree, she would keep turning her head to follow you, until she wrung her own neck. We now know that will never happen. Her neck is built exactly for this. She can rotate a full circle and back, and not a single vessel will be harmed. What people feared was exactly what makes her invulnerable. But the fear didn't stop there. The Romans believed that if an owl screeched from a rooftop, death would come to that house soon. According to legend, an owl's cry preceded the assassination of Julius Caesar. And perhaps behind this superstition lies no mysticism at all, just a simple chain of cause and effect. An owl hunts where there are rodents. Rodents gather where sanitation is poor, and poor sanitation itself tends to go hand in hand with disease. The owl wasn't predicting death. She was simply arriving wherever those conditions already existed. People mistook coincidence for cause. To the ancient Athenians, she was something else entirely. Money itself. Her image sat on the back of their silver coin, the tetradrachm, so consistently for over 400 years that people simply called the coin itself the owl. That coin became the first trusted currency of the ancient world, carried from Athens to Egypt and beyond. Wherever it traveled, her image alone was the guarantee that the silver inside was real. For centuries, we looked at her and saw whatever we wanted to see. Wisdom to some peoples, death to others, currency to some, mystery to all of them at once. Hegel once wrote that the owl of Minerva spreads its wings only with the falling of the dusk. True understanding arrives only once the event has already happened, once it's already too late to change anything. For centuries, people walked in circles around her tree, waiting for her to wring her own neck. She didn't. She just kept watching them,